I did it. I finally did it. The deed for the land I bought today. I bought my own property. It's mine. It's really mine. My name, Bridget Mason. Biddy, as they call me. Took a while, but it's mine. It's really mine. Something I can call my own and give to my children, my babies, and their babies. Something that nobody can take away from me. A place for the family to grow up in, for us all to feel safe. I can't wait to put a house there with a big porch like the ones on the south. And that was the only way we could escape those humid summer nights in Mississippi. The white families and us, they're people. Being a slave, you worked day and night, and you did whatever the family told you to do. Mostly it was the children. And yes, indeed, the children. Miss Rebecca's brother sent me to help her take care of her 4 little ones. She had another one on the way, too. I almost had no time to take care of my own babies, my Ellen and my Ann. They were but 7 and 3 years old back then. They had to help take care of Miss Rebecca's children, too. Back then, the rich white folk, they bought slaves about the same age as their children and to help and have them grow up together. That was a high status for slaves back then, but sometimes we still felt like we were pets. Miss Rebecca, she was well off in South Carolina. She had a body servant of her own named Hannah. But here in Mississippi, they were poor. Miss Rebecca missed Hannah. Her company mostly. Guess that's why when her father died, they bought Hannah and her 3 children. They came to live with us about a year after I got there. And that Master Robert, now he was a piece of work. He always had some plan to make things better, but usually they got worse. He joined up there with a Mormon church, and then a year after told us we were going to move to their homeland in Utah. We had to cross Texas and the Rocky Mountains to Salt Lake City. They packed up their wagons, but us slaves, we had to walk the whole 2,000 miles. Driving their cattle and making camp for them wherever they chose to settle. But we had to find a place outside wherever we could. And sometimes Master Robert came in and slept with me. We were there for a few years before Master Robert came up with yet another plan to join up with the Mormons and go to start a new colony in South Carolina. Oh, no, it was Southern California, and California had just become a state. We had to cross that awful desert in the Sierra Nevada mountains, and boy, were we tired. But then we looked up and we saw that beautiful valley where they planned to settle. And we built forts and farmlands, and eventually it became a nice town. Master Robert was raising cattle, and I thought we would have a nice home there for a while, but then something happened. And Master Robert was all bent out of shape, and then he came in one day and said that we were moving back to Texas. And when you're a slave, you do whatever the family tells you to do. Except we weren't slaves anymore. It was illegal to be a slave in Southern California. We found that out, me and my Ellen, from some of the other slaves. But what could we do? We had nowhere to live and no money to live on. And that Master Robert knew that too. He started hiding from the Mormons and the law. And then he moved us about 100 miles into a canyon outside of Los Angeles. He hid us there until he could find supplies for the trip. He took my Ellen with him that day to Mr. Robert Owen's livery stable. While he was haggling over the mules, my Ellen was talking up with Mr. Owen's son, Charles, who worked there. And Charles was the one who told us that we were not slaves anymore. And he also told us what it meant if Master Robert took us back to that slave state of Texas. When they left the livery stable, Charles told his father about what he planned to do, and the next thing I know is the morning before we were supposed to leave to go to Texas, some people from the sheriff's came and they served Master Robert some legal papers. They took me and my children and Hannah and her children to the jail in Los Angeles. Mr. Owens and his son Charles were a part of that, and Charles told Ellen everything would be okay, but Lord, were we scared. After a few days, we went into the courthouse and where Mrs. Rebecca and Master Robert were, and he told them he owned us and that we had willingly left Mississippi to come to Southern California, and that he supported us, and that he treated us like family and had no control over us more than over his own children. You should have heard that. Planned to take us back to Texas, and he said that Hannah and her children were pleased to go. And I guess the judge didn't know him well enough to know what that tone of voice meant, but we did. And poor Hannah, she was in a pickle. She was about to have her baby little Henry any day now. I guess that's why the judge, he let her go back to the camp where Master Robert and Miss Rebecca were, and her boy Lawrence too. He told Master Robert to get a lawyer. And then he took us back to the jailhouse, and we was there for about 2 weeks until the trial started. And when we got to the courthouse, it was packed. I had a lawyer the first day, but he quit the second day. Said that he was being threatened for representing us. A black person wasn't allowed to testify against a white person, and so I couldn't speak for myself, and now I had nobody to speak for me. But that Judge Hayes, he figured it all out. He had me, my Ellen, and my Ann come into his chambers, and he asked us our side of the story, and then he asked us if we knew what it meant to go back to Texas, and he said that the children who were minors would be required to stay here in Southern California, and he asked if I still wanted to go, and I said, no, sir. I would not like to be separated from my children. He asked my Ellen and Ann the same thing, and they said the same, that we would like to stay together. After a few days, we all heard what the judge said, that we, persons of color, cannot be held in slavery or involuntary servitude, and that we were free forever. Forever. He also told Master Robert some things that I never thought anybody would tell him, but they were true. And then we were free, and that good Winnie and Mr. Owens invited us, all of us, to their house in Los Angeles. But what were we to do now? But the Lord did not forget us, and he immediately opened doors for us. Mr. Owens had a neighbor, Dr. Griffin, and he heard about my experience delivering babies, and he offered me a job. And I said, yes, sir. Being a laborer, you only earned $1 a day back then. But Mr. Griffin was offering me $2.50 a day to do what the good Lord gave me. I've been working for Dr. Griffin for about 10 years now. 10 years. Catching babies and nursing for folk all over town. the rich Americans and the poor Californians and some Indians too. He takes me to the jailhouse to help out folk there too, the same jailhouse we were in for 2 weeks. Dr. Griffin is a good man, a kind man, under all that bluster. We've seen a lot of change here in Los Angeles in the last 10 years. They're building on the south side, the American part of town, and they opened up 3 hotels. Most of the people who stay in those hotels are from other parts of the U.S., and they're coming to buy land here in Los Angeles. And they keep Mr. Robbins Owens' livery stable real busy, but not busier than during the Civil War, when the Union camps and the barracks were being built here in Los Angeles. And Dr. Owens, he knew it was a lot of work, but he was determined to keep the business a success. I wish you were here to see this day. God bless his soul. Charles owns that business now. Charles married my Ellen about 2 years after we got our freedom. And they both gave me the best advice. Save money so that you can buy property like they were doing. And that's exactly what I did. I made sure my family had food to eat and a nice bed to lay their heads on and a place with a roof over their head. I rented this here cottage on 1st Street. But everything else, I saved. Until today. I can't even read what's on it, but I know that this piece of paper is worth so much. The best $250 I ever spent. Listen to me sounding like Dr. Griffin and Mr. Owens. But it's true. I'm the first black woman in Los Angeles to own property. How am I the first to do anything? I'll never sell this one. No, this one's mine. Those 10 years were hard, but not as hard as being a slave and working for nothing. Now a reward at the end. I'm so happy. Mama, if you're watching, I hope you're proud. They used to say slaves couldn't get nothing because we couldn't read or write. But now I got something I can call my own. Mama and Papa, whoever you were, I wish y'all was here to see this day. Free's good. I got a place I can give to my children so they can give to their children and their grandchildren that nobody can manipulate. And most importantly, a place for them to feel safe. A place where they can talk how they want and be who they want. And so they don't have to sleep on the ground with nothing to cover their head but the sky. That's all I wanted. That's how I used to live. But I'm thankful for my blessings. The open hand is blessed. That gives in abundance as it receives. That's what I live by. The Owens, they helped us when we were in peril, and that's what I plan to do with my community. The black community here is getting bigger. There's about 60 of us now, and we come here to my place for prayer, We hope to get a church one day, God willing, and with hard work. Yes, hard work. I worked hard, and now I got me a stake in Los Angeles. It's the first step, and there's many more to come, but now I got a path. This is gonna be a great day. Oh, Miss Chapman. She said she's not due for another few weeks, but I think she's due to have her baby any day now. I'll go check in on her.